It's the off season. I got a jab sometimes. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Wednesday, May 7th, 8 a.m. on the dot. Thank you for hanging out here on the Sliwa show. I got a lot of different topics to get into. You know, it's kind of weird when you're not reacting to games, at least you're not reacting specifically to Laker games. You kind of find yourself a lot more creative with the topics here. We got a lot of good stuff to get into. I appreciate you guys hanging out on the show this morning. Thank you for being here. No guests today. You guys have to listen to me for an hour, minimum an hour, by the way. You know, sometimes I go over an hour. I think yesterday, now granted, I was doing the show with Eric Pincus. I think we went an hour and a half yesterday. But today you're going to have to listen to a lot of this guy right here. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. If you guys can do me a quick favor and please subscribe to the channel, we'd greatly appreciate that. I do have a quote for everybody that I want to lob up here. And then anybody that wants to throw a quote as well, throw it in and I'll get to it. Be careful when you follow the masses. Sometimes the M is silent. Okay. Shots fired. Be careful when you follow the masses. Sometimes the M is silent. I like that. Go create your own journey. Go create your own route, however you want to look at it. We got a lot of topics. I'm going to give everyone just a quick rundown what we got for the show today. And then I'll take a look at some of the comments and then we'll get things started. Okay, so a couple of things stood out yesterday. Obviously, right now we're all, I think most of us here, that's one of the things that I love about this channel is obviously we talk a lot of Lakers, but a lot of NBA as well. And being able to kind of watch some of these NBA playoff games, and I'm not going to react to all of them, and I'm not going to go that far in depth, but I am going to find things that I think are associated. First off, the West, I have interest in. So, you know, I probably will talk more about the West just for that reason. But there's also a lot of things that tie back to the Lakers. And I don't know if you guys are watching game one of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Golden State Warriors, and you're pulling out the head on your hair. Now, I can't do that. Now, you guys understand that I don't have the luxury of pulling the head off of my hair. I want to talk about yesterday's Golden State Warriors win against Minnesota. Minnesota had no shot the entire game. Steph Curry didn't even play for at least the entire second half and part of that second quarter as well. They kept referencing, well, look at Minnesota struggling from the three-point line. Oh, by the way, they struggled against the Lakers. Yeah, here's the difference. When they struggled from the three-point line against the Lakers, they were still beating the Lakers. And when they struggled against the Golden State Warriors, they were down 10 or 15 points the entire game. So there was a lot of things I was actually taken away from the game yesterday. I have so much curiosity. Is Minnesota really good or were the Lakers really bad? After watching one game against the Golden State Warriors, damn, we might have made Minnesota look like the freaking 96 Bulls team. We'll spend a little bit of time on that. I thought there was some interesting coaching decisions of how opposite Steve Kerr was with his team and his depth and his young players versus how JJ Redick didn't even look at the Lakers bench. I mean, not the best things to take away, but they're just kind of the reality. The reality of the situation is I thought last night was a little bit of kind of showing the Lakers, the team they lost against Minnesota. So we'll get into that. Steph Curry out. This dude might be out for a second here. Might take him a second to come back. He's got dealing with what did they let me get the exact I had wrote down the exact terminology, but I just want to make sure that I have it here. Injures hamstring. So it just says, I think it was a hamstring strain is what they put it. So a little bit on that as well. I want to go back to Eric Pincus. I had such a good conversation with Eric Pincus yesterday. I was so happy to have him on. And I got to go back to a couple things yesterday. I want to go back to what's a win-win contract with LeBron and the Lakers. They win, or LeBron wins and the Lakers win. We'll spend a little bit of time on that. I thought some of the stuff that he was talking about with Austin Reaves, with Luka Doncic, I read a couple YouTube comments from the show yesterday as well. I want to bring back up bigs to target. Are you guys seeing the names that are being thrown around with the Lakers? I've heard Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Miles Turner, Nikola Vucevic. Go down the list. I mean, every big that you could think of is associated with the Lakers. I'm already getting a migraine we'll spend a little bit of time on that. I got a couple things on the NBA and these playoff games that are coming up a little bit later tonight. Pacers and the Cavs. Pacers take a 2-0 lead. Then we got Ask Sli, and then we will call it a day. So we got a lot to pack into this show today. So thank you very much for hanging out. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments here. Just kind of look at what people, how people are getting the show started. Let's see what we got here. It's changed. What's up? Warriors better than Jesus. Yeah, this is what I was noticing yesterday as well. Lakers are who we thought they were. Here you go. Here's somebody that's just saying good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to you as well. All right, let's see what we got here. Here's a good quote. Goals are like a map. They help us determine where we want to end up and give us personal direction on which to focus our energy. Phenomenal. Great quote right there. I'm going to start getting my goals together right now. Right now, I'm ready to go. Unless the Wolves are rusty, we were exposed as a terrible team last night. That's kind of funny. That was part of what I was walking away with yesterday too. It's the way that kind of the game started. You know, Warriors, and I'll get more into it, but Warriors kind of took control of the game a little bit, and then next thing you know, I just kept looking back to the Lakers. I'm like, are the Timberwolves good, or do the Lakers just get handed to them? All right, let's see a couple more here. We'll get the show started. Good morning, Sli. Everyone's talking about trading the farm for Giannis. That was brought up yesterday. I'll bring that up again. I did think that was an interesting one from Eric Pincus to bring up. Last night I reminded how incredibly streaky Anthony Edwards can be. Absolutely. Okay, so let's. People obviously want to talk about last night's game, so let's start off with that. Let me just first talk about the game, and then I'll tie it back to the Lakers because I think there's plenty of ways to tie that game back to the Lakers. I had curiosity about this game. I have curiosity about this series because our hope was, you know, everybody watching this show and everybody that's been following along with me, I don't think many people thought Lakers were going to be kicked out of the first round of the playoffs. I don't think a lot of people thought that. So as we kind of sit here today, and this is the reality. No, the reality is, nope, Lakers lost in the first round. That's it. Season is over. And now you're starting to watch these other teams that either you played against or you could have matched up against. Lakers lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games. It was not a long series. Even games that Minnesota didn't play well, they still beat the Lakers. All right, Golden State had to go 7 games against the Houston Rockets. By the way, these teams that the Knicks had to go 7 games, or they didn't have to go 7 games, but they had a pretty long series with Detroit, and it was a grueling series, and there wasn't that much rest in between. Denver had to go 7 games. Golden State had to go 7 games. All these teams won. Every road team has won so far to start out the second round, which is pretty crazy. They're 5-0 so far. The road teams are so far 5-0. But you looked at the Golden State Warriors coming into yesterday's game, and it's like, all right, how is this game going to map out? Is Buddy Hield really going to have another great game? Is Minnesota's their size and their length, are they just going to take over in the series the way they did against the Lakers? Is Anthony Edwards going to take his game to another level? I mean, you just kind of start asking all these questions. Well, here's the reality, and here's what happened. Minnesota had a lead at the end of the first quarter, and then that was it. Golden State held them to 31 points in the first half. 31 points in the first half. I think they outscored them by 15 in that second quarter. By halftime, you felt like, I think the game is over. And I know people can say, well, they could come back. They're this, that. No. They controlled the game. They dominated the game. Even if Minnesota got it to like 8 or 9, maybe even 10, next thing you know, a couple of buckets. Jimmy Butler would hit one. Buddy Hield would hit one. They'd be up 14, 16, whatever the case is, and they never had a shot in this game. They did all that with Steph Curry playing 13 minutes. That's it. That's all Steph Curry played. And I don't think you could determine this in one game, but Minnesota shot 15% from the three-point line against the Lakers in that final game 5 where they clinched. Under 15%. It's one of the worst. I think it was the worst three-point percentage in playoff history, something along those lines. Okay. Yesterday, they shot 17% from the three-point line went 5 of 29. The difference is they took a lot less threes than they did against the Lakers. But Minnesota was awful in yesterday's game. I'm watching this game play out. I'm like, wait a minute. Where's Jaden McDaniels? By the way, he didn't have a terrible game, but I'm just using some guys as an example. Where's Jaden McDaniels? All of a sudden, Julius Randle doesn't shoot efficiently. Anthony Edwards had 1 point at the half. Naz Reid still did his thing. He's a phenomenal player, but they didn't have as many players contribute off the bench. They only scored 88 points. I know they had one game against the Lakers where they dropped 85, but somebody help me out here. If you told me Steph Curry was only going to play 13 minutes, Minnesota's going to be at home, they took the Lakers out in 5, wouldn't you think they dominate the Golden State Warriors? That was not the case. Now, I didn't pick the Timberwolves in the series. I picked Golden State. I still have my doubts about the Minnesota Timberwolves, but it made me feel so much more insecure about the Lakers. That's what I thought last night was to me. Last night, to me, I'm watching this game, and all I can think to myself is, look how much easier the Golden State Warriors are outsmarting the Minnesota Timberwolves. Look how they're out coaching. I don't even know if you want to call it out coaching, because I think Chris Finch is a good coach. But do you know how many players Steve Kerr used in yesterday's game? He used 10 players. Pat Spencer played 11 minutes for them. Kevon Looney played 14 minutes. They were actually using their entire bench and all the players that they have. And for the Lakers, J.J. Redick wouldn't play a soul on that bench in Game 4. And then if you asked him about it, he was basically looking at you like, how dare you question me not to only play 5 guys in the second half of Game 4 on the road? How dare you even question me? And then here's Steve Kerr, who's arguably the best coach in the NBA right now. Certainly his resume and his history now that Popovich is gone. Of course, you got Eric Spoelstra. You got some good coaches in the league. But Steve Kerr, obviously one of the elite coaches in the NBA, he plays 10 guys against Minnesota. He doesn't care. Young guys, older guys, vets, guys that have been in the league, guys that haven't. He didn't care. I need players. I need to do this by the masses, especially because Steph Curry is out, and they were able to do that yesterday. Was it just me? Or were you guys watching last night's game and asking yourself, are the Minnesota Timberwolves really, really good? Or were the Lakers just really, really bad? Because after one game, I know it's just one game, but just think about how big that game was. Steph Curry played 13 minutes. They're on the road. They just played 7 against Houston. They got 1 day of rest. After they're done with the Rockets game, I'm sure they flew right to Minnesota and got ready to go play the Timberwolves. And they beat Minnesota on the road by 11. And I thought Minnesota was getting exposed in many different areas that I was hoping the Lakers would expose Minnesota. That never happened. Okay, then maybe the Lakers are even worse than we thought. It's just one game. But I thought that game, for Golden State to go to Minnesota and go get that game on the road and to do it with Steph Curry playing just such limited minutes was a little bit shocking to me. Okay, real quick on the Steph Curry thing, and then I'm gonna go back. That's the thing that kept sticking to my head was how Kerr was coaching versus how Redick was coaching. How Kerr just strategically get them off the three-point line, Anthony Edwards gets to the basket. It's like 2 hands up and just take your chances with it. Strategically, how they were trying to get to the free throw line, strategically, how they were running Buddy Hield off of screens and using Jimmy Butler. And I know, listen, is Draymond Green going to hit 4 threes and have 18 points every game? Probably not. But you know what? He had it in Game 1, and that's all you're asking for. Just a wildly different approach than what J.J. Redick and the Lakers took. And I'm not trying to use this episode of like, hey, I'm gonna bash J.J. Redick on this show. No, but I'm gonna talk about how one coach played the Minnesota Timberwolves versus how another coach played the Minnesota Timberwolves. And people could say, well, Minnesota just shot really, really well against the Lakers. That's kind of what they do. They are a 3-point shooting team. They can get buckets. They do have guys that can extend the floor. But when Minnesota struggles from the 3-point line like they did against the Lakers still lost a game. Minnesota was still controlling Game 5, and Minnesota couldn't hit a shot. This game, Minnesota couldn't hit a shot, and the Golden State Warriors obviously completely controlled the game as well. All right, so real quick on Steph. Left game one, a left hamstring strain. He's getting an MRI today. He's considered day to day. Steve Kerr said, we don't know yet, but with a hamstring, it's hard to imagine that he would play on Thursday. So that's going to be game two. They're obviously going to probably really, especially because they stole game one, they're going to really take their time on trying to bring Steph Curry back. But listen, teams are going to make adjustments. And I guarantee you the Minnesota Timberwolves weren't prepared for Steph Curry to be out for as much as he was in this game. So they'll squash that game plan. And do they probably tie it up and take it back to the Bay, tied one apiece? Yes. If Steph Curry's not healthy, does that really hurt the Golden State Warriors of getting to the Western Conference Finals? Absolutely. Of course it does. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. But at least we know that, obviously they lost them for yesterday's game and they still found a way to get a win. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments here and see if you guys agree with me with some of my takes here, or if you guys disagree. So let's take a quick look here. We were in Cancun before the series with the Wolves even started. I mean, we know who was there first. Let's show respect to who was there first. The Phoenix Suns have been in Cancun. I thought we said we're not going to do Cancun. Can we do a different? Why does it have to be Cancun? Why does it have to be Cancun? Nobody goes to Europe anymore? Nobody. Can we go to Mexico City? Can we try the city? Try a little bit of history out there? All right, let me see. Let me see what we got here with some of the comments here. Lakers have no leadership on the court or on the bench, to be honest. Felix, I got to be honest. There are times where I cannot stand Draymond Green. I can't stand him. Every possession, I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Draymond, can you just be normal for a second? There's other times I'm looking at Draymond, I'm like, damn, that guy's a freaking true leader right there. That dude is putting his team or his squad in a position to go get a W. Obviously, Draymond, you could talk however you want about him, but for the most part, gets it done, understands his role, the entire thing. Okay, let me look at a couple more comments here. 41-year-old player playing better than 99% of players in the league. Well, that's going to come back to, the roster and everything else. Let's see what we got here. All right, some people feel a certain way about JJ. Steve Kerr is brilliant how he utilizes players to execute his game plan. JJ is like elementary level. Yeah, again, I know there's levels to this, and I'm not trying to, sit here and pretend like I don't know that or I don't realize that. And, when you talk about Steve Kerr, you truly are talking about one of the best coaches in the league and will go down as one of the best coaches in NBA history. You win 4 NBA championships, you're going to be considered, in elite conversations. But when JJ could have depended on more players and tried to see if he could get a spark off the bench with against Minnesota, see if he can kind of rally the troops together. Instead, he isolated. And next thing you know, he's doing something that's never been done in playoff history, never making a substitution in the second half. And then doubling down and tripling down on it whenever anybody asked him anything about it. It's like he kind of gave you that feeling of, well, you don't know basketball. Okay, all right, that's fine. But every great head coach has never done that before in the history. And Steve Kerr yesterday was looking down his bench. He's like, all right, let me try that guy. Let me try that guy as well. All right, this guy's coming in now too. And can I get a few minutes from this player? That's a wild difference. Now, you could sit here and say, well, they have better role players and this and that. Well, how would we know? I mean, how much did some of these other players really get run in that series against the Lakers? And, it's easier to go further down the bench the more desperate you are. And the more desperate Lakers got, the less nuanced, the less they try to see if something else would work. All right, let's see what we got here. I'm pretty sure Celtics now have the worst three-point percentage in playoff history after their 47 misses last game. You might be right, but here's what's going to happen with the Celtics against the Knicks. and they're going to play them again tonight. They're going to probably end up taking over 53s, and they're probably going to win because they're most likely not going to shoot, that awful. I'll get into that series in a little bit. I want to talk about that before the show ends. That Houston series set up Warriors defense for this game. Steph had more space to score and to shoot. Okay, let me get a couple more in here. Austin Reaves is really a seventh or eighth man off the bench. He's not a seventh or eighth man. I'm going to talk about Reaves. I'm confused with people's opinion on Reaves. I feel like a lot of people go after Reaves. A lot of Laker fans do. I don't know how crazy they are about Austin Reaves. We're going to have to dissect that one, like this one. We're going to actually start doing it right now. Before I do that real quick, it's right. It doesn't have to be Cancun every time. Marketing for Cancun is famous, beautiful. I mean, unbelievable. Cancun gets all – there's other places to go on vacation when your team gets eliminated. All right. Stay here for a quick second. I wanted to do this anyways, so let's do it right now. Then I'll get into that LeBron stuff a little bit later. So let me put a bow real quick on yesterday's game. I'm not going to probably talk too much about – I'll talk about Indiana and Cleveland towards the end of the show. I don't want to do that right now. Warriors take game one, Wolves lose. I couldn't stop thinking about the Lakers watching that game one, and then Steph Curry probably most likely missing game two. So there's kind of me tying it back to the Lakers a little bit. Yesterday, I'm having a conversation with Eric Pincus. We're having a good conversation. And Eric is a phenomenal person that I think just brings a wealth of knowledge when it comes to NBA contracts, and he's been around the NBA for a long time. And I was asking him about LeBron's contract. I was asking him about Luka's contract, and I was asking him about Austin Reaves. Okay. The LeBron piece was basically, this is what you should expect from LeBron. I'll come back to that comment. Here's what you should expect from LeBron this upcoming summer. He's probably going to sign another 1+1. Okay. So he'll probably get out of his current contract. This is what LeBron does. He'll sign another 2-year extension. Second year is going to be a player option, and probably around $54 million is what I would expect. Okay. Now, do I think that's the greatest move for the Lakers? Preferably, I would just rather have LeBron play out the final year of his contract, and then we can all kind of assess after that. But LeBron is going to obviously, in the process, he's going to take care of himself. That's what he's probably going to do. Okay. That's the LeBron piece of it. We'll kind of save that here for a second because I want to go to Austin Reaves. Luka, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker. I think he will sign, a long-term deal with the Lakers. The question is just going to be, will he sign a 3-year deal or will he sign a 4-year deal? If he signs a 3-year deal, then that gives him some flexibility. Once he hits 10 years, then he could sign that Supermax and get paid more money than anyone can possibly imagine. Okay. But I don't think anyone's too concerned that he's not going to sign some type of a long-term deal with the Lakers. I think that's going to happen. I think that's going to come. The Reaves one was a question that we were having yesterday. And it wasn't necessarily a question, but it was looking at the options for Austin Reaves. And it was looking at the type of numbers Austin Reaves can make potentially with the Lakers. And to be honest with you, and this is a question that I'm going to ask a lot of Laker fans that are on here now, or NBA fans, whoever's on here right now that wants to have this conversation. Is it just me, or do I feel like, and maybe people are just louder because usually anytime anything's negative, it's just louder than anything that's positive. Is it just me, or there are a lot of Laker fans, I feel like, that are not all that crazy about Austin Reaves, that would actually prefer that the Lakers look to shop a guy like Austin Reaves, that don't want to pay Austin Reaves what the going price is about to be? Because I'm going to tell you something right now. Austin Reaves is going to get paid. And he's probably going to get around $30 million a year is what he's probably going to get, especially if that were to hit the open market. That's coming. Now, if The question that you have, and I think this is a fair question when people, kind of analyze the Lakers, where they are and where they could eventually be. If the question is, hey, Al, if you're giving $55 million to Luka and another $30 million to Austin Reaves, and that's your backcourt night in and night out, do you have enough defense? Fair question. The answer is no, you don't have enough defense. So you better have three other players surrounding those two guys that are elite defensively. You better have a big man that obviously understands what his role is and can be a phenomenal piece to the Lakers moving forward and can kind of clean up any mess. I think that's the main question that a lot of Laker fans are asking. A lot of Laker fans are asking the question of Austin Reaves and Luka Doncic in the backcourt. How are you going to get any stops? How is that going to be a team that, defensively can be one of those squads that you can look at and say, all right, well, they can make a deep run because of that. Clearly, it's going to be more offensive based in the backcourt than defensive based. Let me give you guys a little bit of context here on Austin Reaves. Last year, he averaged 20 points a game, just under 6 assists, and 4.5 rebounds. Okay. Shot 46% from the field, 37.7% from the three-point land. He was phenomenal. He was really, really good last year. And, or this past season, he was really, really good. And if people, don't want to give him his credit or anything like that, I think there's a little bit of hating on Austin Reaves for some reason. He deserves credit. Now, I'll also tell you this. He's bad in the playoffs. I don't even care what the numbers say in the playoffs because he averaged 16 points, had 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists per game, shot 40% from the field and 32% from the three-point line. His numbers went down pretty significantly in the playoffs. Maybe there was an injury associated to it. I read some of that stuff. I did see some things from that perspective. Maybe Minnesota was just a bad matchup and they played him really well. It doesn't matter how you want to slice and dice it. If we're going to criticize other players for being in the playoffs and not performing, then we got to do the same thing to Austin Reaves. That comes with the territory. That's very, very important that comes with the territory as well. So as I sit here today, I'll give you my opinion on Austin Reaves. And again, the money's coming. Austin Reaves is going to get paid. You don't get paid. You're not a player that has those type of numbers and gets paid $13 to $15 million a year in the NBA. It just doesn't work like that. That's not how it happens. But I'll give you my opinion on Austin Reaves. I'm a fan of Austin Reaves. I think he's kind of his path to get to the NBA and then all of a sudden be a player that 100% contributed to the Lakers and helped them win 50 games this past year. I think there's a good chance he's going to be a part of the future of the Los Angeles Lakers. But there's also concern that you got Luka and Austin Reaves in your backcourt. How can there not be? There's also concern that if you give money to Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reaves, there was a comment that was on YouTube yesterday that I grabbed, which I'm trying to do a little bit more of. I want to make sure that, some of these comments that I'm incorporating them a little bit more into the chat. Somebody said here in the comments yesterday, if they pay Luka and LeBron max money and pay Austin $30 million before getting a center and a starter level 2 and a starter level 2-way guard, then more first-round exits is what we can expect at best. Let me just say this. If the plan this summer, and I'm excited about this summer, I really am. I actually think having a full summer, there is a clear kind of path of how the Lakers, I've said this before, you guys are going to hear me say this a lot in the summer. I think it's a good thing that if you lose, there's no question marks about how you lost, why you lost. The Lakers have a very, very clear message from that first round against Minnesota. You don't have size. You don't have enough defense. You don't have enough youth. You don't have enough depth. There's a lot of things that the Lakers don't have. So nobody should be surprised or shocked about it. But if you told me you're paying LeBron, you're paying Luka, you're paying Austin Reaves, I understand the comment of, well, how are you rounding up the rest of this roster? Because if you're taking care of those three guys, I don't think next year all of a sudden, well, that team's getting to the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, there's still a ton of pieces that have to be there. I'm a fan of Austin Reaves. I think his development has been fantastic. I also don't hesitate for a second. If you need to trade Austin Reaves because there's other positions that are more important, or there's another player out there that you feel like is going to be a part of the Lakers for the next 5-7 years that fits perfectly with Luka Doncic, I think it would be a little bit I think it would be careless not to also look at Austin Reaves as a trade chip as well. I really do. I think if you look at Austin Reaves, and the only way you're looking at Austin Reaves is, oh, but we really like this player, and he came up through the Lakers system, and he's been phenomenal for us this entire time, and the fans love him and all that stuff. Cool, awesome. I don't disagree with that. And if you can find a way to keep Austin Reaves on this roster and to round out everything else that you have, and you got a true chance of building around Luka and going to be a team that could compete for the West this year, then by all means, go find a way to do it. But the last thing that I want to see from the Lakers or hear through this grapevine and everything else is, yeah, Reaves is untouchable. That conversation, as much as I like Austin Reaves, as much as I think he's a good player, as much as I think he's an asset to the Lakers, that one I can't comprehend that one. If you traded Anthony Davis, don't tell me that Austin Reaves would not be on the market for the right person. And then you got to truly, truly ask the questions of Austin Reaves and Luka Doncic in your backcourt. What is the most that you can get from that backcourt? That's a legitimate question. What's the rest of the roster look like in order for you to say to yourself, all right, well, if we got those two guys, I got to make sure if I could shore up A, B, C, and D, and then make sure that the bench is this and everything else. If all of this can make sense and those two guys are in the backcourt, then let Rob Pelinka cook and let the Lakers front office figure it out. But I have a very difficult time. I'm reading some of these articles. I'm hearing people say, yeah, the Lakers just wouldn't entertain a trade for Austin Reaves. It's like, come on. We're not talking. This isn't you just traded Anthony Davis. And listen, maybe this is all smoke, but I kind of got a little bit of a feeling that it's not. I think there's a little bit that's a part of this, that the Lakers just genuinely, they love Austin Reaves and they would never think of trading him. I don't think that's the smartest strategy. We'll see what the Lakers do. All right, let's see here. And you know, it's part of my job too. And I think this is a kind of a fair criticism towards someone like myself. Guys, I've also spent a lot of energy talking about players that have not performed in the postseason. AR's not getting a free pass. Austin Reaves was not good in the playoffs. He was, you know why I said I don't even care about looking at the numbers. Don't even pay attention to the numbers, because you can get numbers in a playoff series. You can get playoffs. You can get numbers in the regular season. You can get that. Is there impact in those numbers? Tell me when Austin Reaves was impactful these playoffs. I can tell you when Luka was. I can obviously tell you when LeBron was. You know, unfortunately, I don't know if I could really say anything past those two players. And it's not like those two players were untouchables this postseason, right? There were times where Luka looked good. There were times where Luka didn't look good. There were times where Luka started a game very well, and then there were times in the fourth quarter where I'm like, is Luka even in the game? Same goes with LeBron. There's times where the game that Luka didn't play in game, or he played, but he was a stomach virus, whatever that was in game 3, LeBron took over. There's also games late in the fourth quarter, LeBron was nowhere to be found. So there was a little bit of that from everywhere. Okay, let me read some of the comments here. I'm really just kind of curious, and my apologies. I know I kind of went on a rant there, and I didn't get a chance to read much of the comments, but throw them in now so that way I don't have to kind of go back and try to find them. It's a little bit harder to do that. All right. Dude's a baller. Is he untradeable? No, but he's all-star caliber on an end of bench contract. Here's what's going to change with Austin Reaves, because the value, this is why I kept mentioning the value in his contract today, that's going to change, because he's eventually going to get market value. You know, if I don't even know if I have the best analogy. If you bought a home 15 years ago and you go to buy a home today, you're paying today's prices. And if anyone's out here, I'm sure a lot of people in Southern California, go do the math on what a home is today. And you're like, what the hell? How the hell do I afford this? You got to put 20% down, insurance, all that stuff, right? Austin Reaves is market value is coming, and market value is going to be around $30 million. And frankly, when Austin Reaves signed his original contract, that didn't make any sense to me. I was scratching my head. I'm like, what? No team is matching. No team is going to put, some type of contract in front of him to force the Lakers to give him $90 million. Instead, Lakers only had to give him $54 million or whatever that was. There's some rules to that. Other teams didn't want to hold their cap. They're holding up their cap space for 7 days if that was going to happen. So I understand what was going on there. The market is correcting, and that correction will be there, and Austin Reaves is about to get paid. So I think, John, you have some good points in here, but the all-star caliber player on an end-of-bench contract, that's going to go away. That's going to go away. That part's going to go away. All right, let's see here. I like JJ. However, he made a bonehead move playing the starters the whole second half. Austin and Luka backcourt is a serious defensive liability. And listen, a lot of part of the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying has more to do with the fact you're going to start building a team around Luka. Isn't that the point of this summer? Isn't that why Rob Pelinka said that, hey, a plane is taken off and we were trying to repair the plane while it was already in the air? Well, now we landed it. And now we know Luka's on this team. And now we know JJ Redick's the head coach. Now they can start putting the proper pieces together to make sure that this team obviously looks the way they want by the time October 1st comes around and training camp starts and everything else. Is Luka and AR, is that your answer in the backcourt? And if it is, all I'm saying is you better get all those other pieces properly put together. Because I think AR is an asset. I'll continue to say I think AR is an asset. But what you're trying to build around is Luka. That's your number one priority. Build around Luka. All right, no player is untouchable besides Luka and unfortunately Braun because of his no trade clause. Austin helped the Timberwolves score easily. Not exactly the best defense. I do agree something that Eric Pincus said yesterday. Eric Pincus said something to the effect of, it's not an effort thing for Austin Reaves, and I do agree with that. I just think it's more only so much that he can do. Let's put it that way. Only so much he can do. All right, Armando is going to take me into my next topic. I'd give LeBron this one more year. No more than that. The following year, get an all-star, sign Austin at a home discount. We're off to a chip. You're not getting a discount. Guys, you already got that. You already got that home discount with Austin. Austin's going to get 30 a year. He'll get 25 to 30 a year. And I don't think that's me like stretching anything. I think that's just what his value is going to be. And maybe another team offers even more because they think that he's a marketable player and he's good for business and everything else. We'll see what happens. The part about LeBron, I think, is interesting. One of my topics here, what's a win-win contract for the Lakers and LeBron? Okay. I got to put economics to the side, which is not fair, which is not going to help LeBron's argument here. But let me put economics to the side here real quick. Were you guys still impressed with LeBron this year? Did you guys think that LeBron, from just a pure basketball perspective, is LeBron still delivering? I know his age. I know obviously where he is in his career. But is anyone here, saying to themselves, you know what, the Lakers didn't go far enough because of LeBron? Do you guys really genuinely think that's a LeBron problem? Or do you think that the Lakers didn't have the right roster, didn't have enough bigs? You're asking LeBron to play different positions. You're asking LeBron to play 46 minutes in a playoff game at age 40. I thought LeBron was excellent this year. and I'm keeping in mind his age, and I'm keeping in mind his mileage. 24 points, almost 8 rebounds, 8 assists a game. He kind of just looks like LeBron, and that's what he's looked like every single year. Yesterday, we were having the conversation with Pincus, and Pincus was saying that what's most likely going to happen is he's going to rip up that contract, sign another 2-year deal with the Lakers, another 1+1. I actually agree here with this comment. The comment of Armando saying, I'd give LeBron one more year. Well, you don't have to give LeBron one more year. He's already in. He's got a player option here for the second year. So if he just takes the player option, phenomenal. Then Lakers don't have to worry about kind of too far after this year as LeBron gets ready for his 23rd season. They don't have to start thinking about his 24th season in the NBA. I think, let me tell you what I think is a win-win. And I think this is going to be a tough one because I don't think it's technically a win-win for LeBron, but I would tell you more leaning from a Laker perspective. If you're the Lakers, it's very simple what you're hoping for with LeBron. You're hoping that LeBron signs into that final year of the contract and then kind of reassesses everything after that. And maybe LeBron says, this is it. I'm about to play my 23rd year in the NBA. I don't need to play anymore. This is it. Whatever. This is going to be my final year with the Los Angeles Lakers and in the NBA. And as long as Pelinka knows, everybody knows, you kind of can go all in as best as you possibly can and see what happens. In a perfect world for the Lakers, they get LeBron to take that second year of his player option and then kind of figure it out from there. What do I think is actually going to happen? Which I think this kind of goes back to, can you really build a team around Luka properly with LeBron still on the roster? Even LeBron said it in his exit interview. He's like, I'm not here to pitch Luka and tell him that he should be here. LA obviously wants him here. Laker fans obviously want him here. This is a phenomenal place to try to win. But I'm 40 and he's 26. So their future together is obviously going to be for just another couple years at most, and then we'll see what happens. The one problem, the one situation that the Lakers are in is if LeBron does what he's done every year, which I think this is what he's going to do, he takes that 2-year deal again, 1+1. He's got the option for the second year. You're still kind of very, very heavily involved in the LeBron business. And I don't really think you could get out of the LeBron business until LeBron's no longer a Los Angeles Laker. And LeBron economically always makes sense for business. Always makes sense for business. LeBron could play 5 more years and he still makes sense for business. That just kind of comes with the territory for LeBron. He's just always going to make sense for business. But how much will that make sense in order to try to win an NBA championship, give the Lakers their best chance to compete in the Western Conference? That's where I think the water gets muddy. If you told me that LeBron just has this year left with the Lakers, I think it's great for both sides. LeBron's still putting up excellent numbers. Granted, he's going to be in his 23rd year in the NBA. You never know what can happen in a season. Obviously, he's going to make $50+ million. But if you tell me that LeBron's in it for this year, plus next year, as in this upcoming season, plus the following season, you're still heavily involved in the LeBron business. So I don't know how much you're going to get that chance to really say we're building around Luka if LeBron is still on the team. We're putting together the best team and the best roster around Luka if LeBron's still on the team. I think no question about it, this upcoming season it's going to happen. But I always kind of thought that his 23rd year would be probably his final year in the NBA. But then they traded for obviously Luka, and I don't know how that changes things. I don't know how that changes things. All right, let's see what we got here. LeBron deserves his own washroom and a 2-year contract. Braun 1+1 at $20 million a year. He's not going to do that, guys. The guy is going to get he's going to get as much money as he possibly can. That's just. And by the way, I don't blame him for doing that. If Braun is getting $50 million a year, he's probably worth $80 million a year. Like that. That's just the only reason why LeBron's not making more money is because there's a cap. The Stars being unable to finish games has been a pattern over the years. Not playing Hayes didn't help, though. I think for me, this is more of a conversation of, can you really fully build around Luka Doncic if LeBron is still here? Can you still fully do that if LeBron is still here? No, I think the answer is no. You probably can't. But that LeBron's also 40 years old, and that just kind of comes with the territory of it. Let's see what we got here. Does LeBron have a real shot at winning a chip after next year? Depends what the Lakers look like, but I mean, you guys heard some of that conversation about. You guys heard some of that conversation from Eric Pincus, basically saying that the whole league is on hold for Giannis, trying to figure out what happens with Giannis. Whole league. All right, Luka's style is not the winning formula unless you put together the right team around him, because that team also got to the Western Conference Finals and also got to the NBA Finals when he was out there. But, you know, I will also say this. Luka's got some work to do this offseason as well. You know, Luka's game, I thought, for the Lakers, he always just seemed like he was a step behind. How much does that have to do with the roster? Probably a lot. LeBron delivers. No AD. He kept us alive. His courage and sacrifice deserve respect. And I'm not, listen, I hope nobody's trying to think that I'm not saying that this man doesn't deserve all the respect in the world. Listen, if I talk about stylistically, LeBron in his prime is the closest thing to Magic Johnson, and Magic Johnson was my favorite player that I ever watched play in the game. I just loved Magic's style. You know, people have different preferences. Some people will say, oh, it's Michael Jordan and that style, and it's the high flyer and everything else. Obviously, Kobe is on a lot of people's list. For me, Magic was my favorite. That style of basketball was my favorite style of basketball. I love point guards like LeBron or like Magic. And I think LeBron's the closest thing to Magic that we've ever seen, but better. But did it for 20 plus years. Obviously their games differ from different perspectives. But me saying that, I think after this year, this upcoming season, if LeBron and that $55 million is going to a different player, or the Lakers are freeing up cap space, and you had 8 years with LeBron James as a Laker, I don't think that's disrespect to LeBron. I think that just kind of comes with how long have you been in the league and how much more can you continue doing what you're doing. All right, let's see a couple more here. LeBron is also all about his stats. LeBron is a double-edged anchor. Interesting. I told everyone Reaves needed to come off the bench, but no one agreed with me. That lineup of Bron, Luka, and AR was a defensive liability. Well, according to JJ Redick, if they had AR coming off the bench, AR might not play. He's not using his bench. And how dare anybody question him about not using his bench? How dare you guys? All of you. I shout out real quick here. I want to give a shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Thank you for being a partner here on the YouTube show, for being a part of the Sliwa show. You know, obviously we're on here Monday through Friday, and it's very, very important to have partners, but also to have the right partners. I've known Brad Wallace for 5 years. I got even rocking his little his Nike sweater here that he gave to me. I got to get some more merch from him. I got to be like, Brad, can we give a couple of these out during the show? I'll work on that. Got to have the right partners. Somebody I've known for 5 years. Listen, this business, the industry, injury attorneys, I hope you guys never need an injury attorney, but something comes up in life and you need someone, or a family member needs someone. Obviously, it's wildly important to have the right person representing you. I've been telling the story now for the last couple of weeks. He had a client, and they were going up specifically against Home Depot. All right, so obviously this is a big, big case. And a couple weeks back, he had a 2-week trial, which included Brad's closing arguments at the Van Nuys Courthouse in Los Angeles County. The jury delivered a $4.6 million verdict on behalf of the Wallace firm's client, and found Home Depot responsible for nearly $3 million of that amount. I like giving, specific examples and specific stories. If you are a family member, needs an injury attorney, if you're in the state of California, you're in some type of serious situation, Brad Wallace can help. You can go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa, or click on the link in my description. That's there as well. Get a free consultation, help anybody in the state of California, and I can make a personal introduction if that helps as well. So something just to keep in mind in regards to that. All right, let's keep things going here, and shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. All right, let's see what else everybody's yelling at each other at. Let's see what we got here. We'll find out. Maybe he can. Maybe he can. Bron really needs to bounce. AD in Dallas would be a good way to retire. You guys think Bron plays with another team? I don't think he plays with another team. I think that's it. This is his team. He ends up retiring as a Los Angeles Laker. I don't respect LeBron's game at all. Forces players to switch their game to fit his game, and when they fail, it's their fault. LeBron never learned how to adapt to a style that fits the whole team. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how one player can have such polarizing opposites when it comes to their opinion on him. I got a very, very difficult time saying the words, I don't respect LeBron's game at all. I have a very, very difficult time, kind of processing that. You could not like LeBron, but you don't respect his game. Bron has made plenty of players in the league a lot of money because of his game, because of his style. His style of play, I don't have a problem with. Now, maybe you could say that, hey, he's got so much control and this and that, but that's kind of, listen, this is what LeBron has. You got Clutch Sports. He knows his value in the NBA. He's kind of created a monster, and most people kind of take advantage of that. And I get it. I kind of understand where he's coming from. All right, somebody, there were a few comments here. All of you ungrateful fans hate LeBron anyways. Clippers would be the best move. Can you imagine if he went back to the Clippers, or not went to the Clippers with Ty Lue, went back with Ty Lue, and then joins Kawhi Leonard? I don't think that's going to happen, but it's certainly kind of an interesting conversation. Okay, so just to kind of sum up things real quick, one of the things I took away from Pincus, like I mentioned, was the conversation about these contracts for the Lakers. Luka's going to get his. I don't think anybody's asking that question. Reaves is eventually going to get his, and it's going to probably be around $30 million. And I think for LeBron, in a perfect world for LeBron, he just plays out his next contract. I don't think he's going to. I think what he's going to end up doing is 100% taking the max amount of money that he can get and those 1+1s that he's been doing. And then we'll see what he obviously ends up deciding to do there. All right, let's get another one of these. Enough talking about Reaves. Reaves is trash. Stop sticking up for Reaves. He chokes on place every year. Use him in the trade, please. Little extreme there. I don't know if he's as bad as you're making him out to be there. Was not good in the playoffs. That part I could tell you. He was definitely not good in the playoffs. You know what's going to be wild over the next, before we get to July 1st, okay? Let me read a couple things for you guys. All the different bigs that are going to be mentioned around the Lakers. All right. Yesterday, it was Pincus saying that, perfect scenario for the Lakers, they get Giannis. All right. How are you going to trade for Giannis? The only way you're going to get Giannis is if Giannis Antetokounmpo was saying, I want to be a Los Angeles Laker. By the way, that doesn't mean that can't happen. We kind of heard when Luka got traded, he had some interesting quotes there about, the stars and the international players all playing in big markets. I think Giannis, what's so interesting with Giannis is everybody is saying, hey, is that the last game he played in Milwaukee? And, Now that you got Dame that's injured, probably going to miss all of next year. I think there's this feeling that Giannis is going to want out. All right, how are the Lakers going to get him? I got no idea. But think of all the different names that are already being associated with the Lakers. And I get it. These get clicks. That's why these conversations happen. But Giannis's name you're already hearing. I saw something from Howard Beck as well on the Zach Lowe show. And again, it was about Giannis and, some potential markets that he could play in. You guys probably heard the Joel Embiid conversation that was going on the Bill Simmons podcast, where he's basically saying, trade everything you have. I don't even think he said trade everything you have. I think he basically said, get the Philadelphia 76ers out of the Joel Embiid business. You take all the risk. You just take all these other contracts, and they don't even get Austin Reaves. They just get a couple picks in the process. Okay, so far with the Lakers, you've heard Giannis's name, Joel Embiid. I don't need to tell you guys about Miles Turner and Naz Reid and Clint Capella. Go down the list of all these other players. Nikola Vucevic was also mentioned recently in a report that I saw. Every single name that you could think of, get ready. Because as we sit here in the offseason, obviously we know the Lakers need size. Every one of these players are going to be associated with the Lakers. What you got to ask yourself, it's what's realistic and what's not realistic. What are real opportunities at the Lakers? Let me give you guys an example. I know it feels like Miles Turner has been a Laker 3-4 times already in his career, but that's a player that if you said, hey, in the offseason, Lakers went out, they made a run, they were creative how they did it, and they got Miles Turner on the Lakers, I'd be like, that's a great signing. And it's also would be a signing that you feel like is realistic. It's not this like just completely shoot in the sky and hope and pray that something happens. I think some of these other names are, obviously not the most realistic thing. But that's just an example of how many different names are going to be associated with the Lakers over the course of the next probably about 6 weeks. Free agency starts July 1st. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of chatter now with the playoffs and NBA draft will come and everything else, NBA finals before that. But there are going to be so many different names that are associated with the Lakers. That just kind of comes with the territory. Okay, a couple other things I want to get into as well. It's because of the media. Here's the problem. You say it's because of the media follows the clicks. If you click on it, then the media will keep giving it to you. Zero chance Giannis comes unless LeBron retires. LeBron's not retiring. Embiid is injury prone. Forget about the superstar centers coming to LA. Who are the unrestricted centers available this offseason? Dub T, and I'm going to, what I'll do actually, and I'll do this either tomorrow or Friday, I will just do a realistic conversation about some of the centers that are out there that the Lakers could potentially go after, what they would cost if they were to go out and get a player like that, what players probably go away that you can't have. That's a good conversation in its own, and we'll do that. But, I mean, it's been a couple days since the Lakers were eliminated, and we already got Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I guess the only one that we're missing now is Jokic. Might as well throw him into the mix as well. Certainly have a little bit of that as well. Okay, I got a couple things on the NBA that I want to do real quick. Today is Wednesday, so I am going to get a couple Ask Slee questions in. If you got any Ask Slee questions, Ask Slee could be anything you want. We could, yesterday or last week, I was telling a story about, how about my Thai food story? I ordered on, I don't know, Uber Eats or something like that to get Thai food, but I was a little, it was late at night. And I somehow found a way to order Thai food and have it delivered to the other Thai food place that I was thinking of getting food at. It was one of those. Ask Lee, if you got any Ask Lees, feel free to throw them in, and I'll get to a few of them here. Okay, a couple things on the NBA front real quick. I don't know if you guys saw this. Rob Pelinka gets 6th place in Executive of the Year candidates. Sam Presti picked as the NBA's Executive of the Year. I'm going to give you guys just kind of a list of all the different teams that were or different executives. Cleveland's Kobe Altman got second. Detroit's Trajan Langdon. I know Trajan Langdon was their executive. That's badass. Trajan Langdon, obviously a player in the league. He got third. Pistons went from 14 wins to 44 wins this year. Houston's Raphael Stone got fourth. Clippers' Lawrence Frank got fifth. And Rob Pelinka got sixth as far as voting goes. You can't get top five for trading for Luka. Biggest trade in NBA history, and you can't get in the top five here in executives. So something to keep in mind from that perspective. Rob Pelinka gets sixth. And listen, you got Luka. If Rob Pelinka wants to shoot up that chart, a lot of it's going to have to do with what he does this offseason. So clearly there's going to be a lot of pressure on Rob Pelinka this offseason. Not bad pressure. I think it's good pressure. I think the position you want to be in is you got a star. You got taken out of the postseason before you even know it, a lot earlier than people thought it was going to happen. And now you got to fix your roster, and you keep telling everybody, hey, there's going to be a lot of movement this offseason. You feel like there's going to be a lot of movement. You feel like the Lakers now have time to, change up the roster. What I don't want Pelinka to do is overpromise and underdeliver, but he's promising some things, so now he's just got to deliver. Cavs are down 0-2 to the Pacers. This series, I'm not a fan of, unfortunately, what's going on in this series. I mean, give Indiana credit. They came back again. They had that comeback against the Milwaukee Bucks. But what's disappointing about this series, injuries. Evan Mobley didn't play in yesterday's game. DeAndre Hunter, who they got at the trade deadline, didn't play yesterday's game. Darius Garland didn't play in yesterday's game. That part's devastating. And, I'm not trying to take away credit from Indiana because they're up 2-0. Cleveland had that game yesterday, but damn, you get those kind of injuries. How the hell do you hang? And by the way, this is Donovan Mitchell going off. Donovan Mitchell was unbelievable yesterday. What did he end up with? His points. 48 and 9. Also had 4 steals and 5 rebounds. Damn, he took 21 free throws. So Pacers up 2-0 in that series. NBA games tonight, Knicks and the Celtics. I feel like there's either everyone's giving way too much credit to the Knicks or no credit at all. There's nothing in the middle here. I thought it was wildly impressive of the Knicks to come back down 20 against the Boston Celtics, a team that's dominated them. They deserve a lot of credit for coming back in that game and winning an OT. Questions are going to be on Porzingis. What's his health going to be? That obviously is going to have a lot to do with it as well. But I'm shocked that the Celtics blow that lead at home for how much they've dominated them. Porzingis is probable, so it looks like he'll play. So they'll get him back, and I'm sure Boston will tie up that series. We'll see what happens. And then the second game is Thunder and the Nuggets. How did the Thunder respond from that, frankly, a choke job on Monday night? They had the game. Denver was in no position to win that game, but they won the game, so they're up 1-0. They're kind of playing the Oklahoma City Thunder are playing for their season tonight. All right, let's see if we got a couple last sleeves here. If we don't, all good. But I will just see here and go from there. Ashley, what's your favorite type of beer that you savor for that special couch chill time? Okay, I'm not much of a beer drinker. There's a brewery in San Diego called Culture Brewing. Probably my favorite beer, Culture Brewing, and I got a couple of the beers here at the office. So every once in a while, I'll just kind of crack one of those open. But a really, really good beer. I'm not an IPA guy or anything like that. More of a lager, just kind of something light. But I'm not a crazy, crazy beer guy. I also like sipping on bourbon. So if I'm going to have a drink, I went to, I think I told you guys on Saturday, I went to a dinner, and I was mezcal. I think that's the type of, or mezcal is the type of, anyways, in that tequila world. That's pretty nice. Nice on no ice or anything like that. Just kind of having it neat, smoky and everything. I'd prefer kind of the liquors over the beers, but to sip on a beer, that's just one to give an example. And that's just obviously one that's specifically a brewery. All right, let's see if I got a couple last sleeves here. If not, we'll just keep reading a couple of these comments and then we'll call it a day. Go-to vacation spot not named Cancun. I don't think these count because they're too close, but going up to the woods is like one of my favorite things to do. Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear, Idlewild. When you say go-to spot, I'm just thinking a couple of days, something along those lines. I love that. I go up to the mountains. I don't care any time of the year. It could be cold. It could be hot. It could be summer. It could be winter. It doesn't matter. I just think it's beautiful up there. Let's see what we got here. Thai food story. Still don't understand my Thai food story. My own Thai food story, I don't even understand. All right, let's get a couple more comments in here, and then we're going to get out of here. Hate the Warriors. But really sucks about the Steph injury. Harder to root against them. Yeah, I mean, you obviously don't want to see any you definitely don't want to see any injuries. But yeah, I'm cheering for Minnesota. I'd like to see Minnesota. I kind of like new blood, even though Minnesota just beat the Lakers, and I guess it makes me feel better to justify if Minnesota keeps going on. I'm kind of over the Warriors script, but you got to give them a lot of credit. I mean, they've been there for how many different years? When the dust settles, they're there every freaking year. Got to give them a lot of credit. A beer at the office. What if the boss walks in? You know, it happens when you work for yourself. There's the luxury. Let's see what we got here. Do you watch any other sports? Definitely. Of course. You know what I actually caught myself watching yesterday? I do. You know, listen, I'm a baseball fan. You guys have heard me say this before, so I watch a lot of Padres. Got a little bit more kind of slowly but surely getting a little bit into the MLS. San Diego now has a team, a ton of NBA. Yesterday I was watching a little bit of the Champions League. What is that? Inter Milan and Barcelona. Is it 4-3? I think 4-3 the final. So pretty cool stuff from that perspective. All right. Not hard at all. F the Warriors. Yeah, I'm just kind of, I've seen that script before. I've seen that movie before. I'm trying to see something different. All right, my people. I think we're done for the day. Can I say something real quick here? Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you guys being here. I've been, it's kind of interesting here. It's like, all right, the season's going to end, all that stuff. There's something about even doing shows outside of the reaction of a game that's kind of nice. I feel like you can get into longer topics, have more conversation. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Working on a guest for tomorrow. I'll keep you guys posted on that. Anyways, this has been phenomenal this week to just kind of, even though we don't have Laker games, we still got a lot of good stuff to get into. So thank you for being a part of the show. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, 8 a.m. Thank you for being here. And we'll see what happens in the NBA here tonight with a couple more games. So thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your morning.